Hey, how's it going? It is Friday, May 8th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. Today, we're going to get some coronavirus updates, another conspiracy theory becoming reality, and gaining vision and becoming a visionary in Providence. So, how are you guys doing? It is wonderful. Why? Because it's Friday. It's the end of the week, of the first week of May, and let's continue to move through it and do it together on the Morning Star Drive. Keep liking, keep commenting, and I want to hear from you guys and see how you're doing. Please remember, this Sunday, we're going to be meeting YouTuber, Blessed Family Father, former head leader in America, Pastor David Baker. So look forward to a great interview with him on the Sunday edition. And guys, don't miss it. Some crazy stories on it. All right, let's move on to the featured artist of the day. Today we're going to be featuring Man in Groom from Paper Music Associates, and this single is a song that talks about his older sister and how he misses those times. It's a Korean title basically saying, older sister, I miss those times. That's what the title is. And the second song we're going to hear is an oldie but a goodie. It's going to be Together with the Lord from the Sumney Boys featuring Mariah Henry, a classic and favorite summer song of mine. So everyone, get ready, let's listen on, and we're going to have a great time in music with the Lord.
너나 그때가 너무나도 그리워 엄마 옷 가게가 우리의 놀이터 앞에 목욕탕을 주말마다 가고 해질녘이 되면 줄넘기를 돌려 너나 난 그때가 너무나도 그리워 엄마 옷 가게가 우리의 놀이터 앞에 목욕탕을 주말마다 가고 해질녘이 되면 줄넘기를 돌려 그고 나서 어린 게 더 좋아졌어 아무 생각 없이 웃을 수 있었어 구구단만 잘 외워도 대단했어 매일 밤마다 엄마 팔베개를 댔어 누난 어렸을 때가 기억이나 나는 가끔 하려니 그 동네가 떠올라 그 작은 동네를 보면 변한 것 같은 느낌이 없는데 계속 날 보면 실감나 에이 그것만이 남은 게 감사와 아직도 엄마가 내 짐을 대신 들어줄까 아니네 아는데 아는 게 아니네 난 약하네 빠르게 그곳파 있었는데 난 과거를 그리워해 아무래도 나는 무섭나봐 시간이 너무 빨리 갔어 누나 난 그때가 너무나도 그리워 엄마 옷 가게가 우리의 놀이터 앞에 목욕탕을 주말마다 가고 해질녘이 되면 줄넘기를 돌려 누나 난 그때가 너무나도 그리워 엄마 옷 가게가 우리의 놀이터 앞에 목욕탕을 주말마다 가고 해질녘이 되면 줄넘기를 돌려 아무 좀 가만히는 있다가 펑 터지겠어 난 크게 더 고마운 건내 고마운 건내 아무 좀 가만히는 있다가 펑 터지겠어 난 크게 더 고마운 건내 고마운 건내
We believe in the same God, but we are on different levels.
Put your hands in the sky if you feel alive. All the stories that we made, just you and I. Never losing all the passion. All this love is my obsession. Oh my gosh, this feeling got me heat stroke. His love like a billion pots about to heat though. I ain't never breaking from this bond, cause you and I are only one.
If you ain't living with the Lord, then who you with?
Who you with?
If you ain't living with the Lord, then who you with? You with? You 함께 together with the Lord every day, all day. You 함께 together with the Lord all day, all day. You 함께 together with the Lord every day, all day. You 함께 together with the Lord all day, all day.
Together with the Lord, I'm living my best life. Don't worry about a thing, you know it's only sunny life. We sing about memory stories that we share. We'll fall deeper in love as we stop and just stare. My eyes only on you, they sparkle with love. Don't forget my charm too. There will never be another. Live this life only for you. I give you this promise that I will hold true.
If you ain't living with the Lord, then who you with?
Who you with?
If you ain't living with the Lord, then who you with? You with?
different levels.
And that is Together with the Lord, the Sumney Boys featuring Mariah Henry. And that first song was from the Paper Music Associates. It is Man in Groom. And that is a song about his older sister remembering and missing those times. So hope that everyone is having a wonderful, wonderful time. Me too. Just getting myself going for this weekend. We got Bubble Talk on Saturday. We got the Sunday edition interview on the Sunday. And of course, that's going to be a great time because we're going to meet Pastor David Baker. And if you meet him, oh man, you guys got to hear that. He's got some great stories. So look forward to that. So what does that bring us to? It brings us to our coronavirus updates. So let's take a look at what's going on around the world. There are 3.8 million cases around the world with around 265,000 deaths. The U.S., once again, we know they're at top with 1.26 million cases and already 75,000 deaths. Their death or mortality rate is roughly around 5.9% around there, so it still hasn't reached 6% yet. The UK, on the other hand, they've cracked the 200,000 mark for cases, or 201,000, 30,000 deaths too. So they reached two marks at the same time, 200,000 cases with 30,000 deaths, and that brings them to about 15% in the mortality rate. France, 175,000. Looks like they're slowing down in their cases. France is like, they used to be like neck and neck with the UK. But they're now like 26,000 below in cases, and their deaths are at 26,000, and they're below the UK also in the mortality rate with about 14.8%. Interesting thing is Canada, my country, and they've been slowly creeping up, just unnoticeably, and they're at 64,000 cases with around 4,200 deaths, and that gives their mortality rate at 6.66%. 666. Oh my gosh, right? Belgium, still number one in the world in mortality rate, 51,000 cases with 8,400 deaths, which gives them 16.34% in their mortality rate. Russia and Brazil, kind of interesting because yesterday, obviously, America is always number one when it comes to number, not percentage, but number. They're only moving up their case rate. It only goes up about 2%, but it's still like 25,000 to 30,000 people getting every day. And plus, they're really good at testing. They test so many people. Interesting thing is, Brazil has overtaken Russia in the amount of cases per day. And Brazil is now running at a clip of 10%. So they're now at 126,000 cases. They went almost 12,000 the day before. Russia's still at 10, 11,000. They're kind of moving up around 7%. But Brazil, out of nowhere, they're now 10% at their rate of the increase in cases. The UK is okay, about 6,000 cases a day. France is well below. They're only at 3,600, which is like almost half of what the UK has. And Peru, out of nowhere. They have 54,800 cases, but in a day, they've gained 3,600 cases, which is really big. Up in Southeast Asia, or down in Southeast Asia because of the South, right? India is still on top, and they're gaining cases at a rate of 7%. So they're getting about 3,500 cases a day. And they're around 53,000 cases at the moment. Singapore, like, I'm not going to give you the amount of deaths they have because in Southeast Asia, it's really low. It's like super low. Like Singapore has over 20,000 cases, which doesn't really mean much because they have like less than 20 deaths. And even though their cases are going up about 4% at a time, you know, the bigger factor is actually going to be the mortality rate. Indonesia's at 12,000, and Malaysia, where I am, they're moving at around 1%, like only 45 people in a day. It's really low. And soon, I believe in about 3-4 days, the lockdown should be finished here in Malaysia. Hong Kong, they've been zero for a long time. They've only got like 1,000 cases. So, you know, they're actually doing really, really well with that also. So I hope that helps you out with the updates on the coronavirus. So today I wanted to talk about this conspiracy theory coming out that might not be a conspiracy theory. And I know that I talked about one of these topics before, and it was like, oh, did the virus come out of a Wuhan lab? And everyone thought that was a conspiracy theory. And then now, the more and more information comes out, it looks like it actually came from a lab. Like, it wasn't like literally made by but they were studying these really bad viruses. And of those 50 COVID viruses in there, it kind of like matches one of them like 99%. So one of the interesting things that we're going to talk about today is there's this big argument right now going on about is a lockdown, is it the best way? What are the other options? What are the other alternatives? And, there's a lot of arguing about, hey, is this lockdown, like full lockdown, is it good or not? And of course, all of us will be like, of course, we have to do this so it doesn't spread. And the only thing that's giving this like conspiracy theory lots of credibility is that it's not people talking about it. It's actually doctors, epidemiologists, and virologists are all speaking out that it's not the best method, and some of them are actually saying it's really weird that they're doing it this way. Like, it's like the exact opposite of what you should be doing. So there's a couple of doctors that were talking about they weren't wearing any masks or any gloves. They're like, you don't really need to. And the reason that they said was your immune system, it is used to taking and developing daily immune responses. Like you're basically in contact with bacteria and viruses all the time. And that's how your body grows your immune system gets to grow. So if you take all of those bacteria and viruses away and you just hide into a room and you shelter yourself, then what happens is your immune system actually drops because you're no longer in contact with these bacteria and disease, and you're basically washing your hands constantly all the time. So what happens is your immune system begins to drop and you're more likely to get sick. And this is microbiology and immunology, okay? Now, these doctors were saying, if you're healthy with no immunodeficiency, right, no pre-existing conditions, you're not an elderly, then you should be pretty much able to go out without masks or gloves, and it shouldn't be a problem, right? Everyone, they said this is a pretty much 100% is, now that everyone has been put in lockdown, staying in their houses, that means everyone's immune system has all dropped. And now you're going to take all these people to start meeting each other again, and they're going to be exchanging bacteria and viruses and such. And they said it's pretty much a guarantee the virus will spike no matter what. It's just because that's the outcome of locking people up. And their immune systems are going to go down. Another virologist was saying that, we're doing the exact opposite of what we're supposed to do. Like one example she gave was beaches. Like, it makes no sense that the beaches are closed and parks are closed. And they said one thing about beaches is they have sequences in the soil and sand that help us. And also the ocean has healing microbes, which is really, really good for us. The only thing you just got to watch out for is that, just make sure that people are social distancing while they're at the beach. So this virologist was kind of like, she was stumped. She's like, it's insane that you're closing beaches and parks. And what's even more interesting that this virologist was saying was, it's interesting that no one's saying anything against the government. And if you look on, like in America, they're like YouTube and Facebook are shutting down like videos and such that are saying anything against what the government says, which is kind of weird, right? So you're only hearing one side. So a couple of doctors, I was looking at another interview with a couple of doctors, and they were saying the exact same. They're just speaking up, and like they're like in utter disbelief of why are we doing things so wrong, and why are we doing it this way? And he's basically just his doctor is yelling like, this is all fake news. All you doctors start speaking up because you guys all know this is wrong. And one thing that's very interesting that this virologist was talking about is scientists, you can't really blame them, because what happens is scientists, they make their money, or they make money through funding, and the funding all comes from the government. So basically, you're not going to really say anything against the people that control your funding, which means that whoever holds the money is controlling the scientists too. So that's why they said there's no incentive for you to come out and say this is wrong, because you're the ones getting famous, you're the one making a lot of money. One interesting fact, this is happening in America, and I find this a very interesting fact, is doctors are incentivized to have coronavirus patients, even if they might not be. And you're like, well, what does that mean? Like, for instance, if you have a coronavirus patient, and like say on their death certificate, if they have like some some signs that they have of coronavirus, some symptoms of coronavirus, if they put coronavirus as one of their symptoms of death, what happens is for every coronavirus patient you have in your hospital, you get like $13,000 for that hospital or for that doctor, which means doctors are incentivized to have people with coronavirus, right? So if you put on the death certificate, you're basically getting paid. And then it jumps to like $39,000 for every coronavirus patient that goes to an ICU on a ventilator, which is really weird. You're incentivizing this. It means it almost feels like you're trying to get the numbers up. So there's another doctor too. His name is Dr. Scott Atlas. He's a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution on Healthcare Policy, and that's at Stanford University. He's talking about there is no evidence. There's no evidence whatsoever to keep people inside and lock them down. And he says the biggest thing the thing that's scaring people is the models. The model says, this many people are going to die, this many people are going to die. And basically said that a model is basically just taking the data you have right now, putting them into a formula, and boom, that's what it says. It has nothing to do with policy, and it has nothing to do with you have to lock down or not. It's just telling you with the numbers we have, this is what it looks like. And this is why the models keep changing over and over and over again. It's all about just what is the data we have right now. That's all it is. So Dr. Scott Atlas was also saying that if you wanted to stop a lot of the deaths, like you should have had so many more precautions at nursing homes and senior care centers. And basically, you should require testing for people taking care of the elderly, making sure they don't have the coronavirus. Make sure that the people who are already sick should self-isolate. People, and another interesting thing is he brought up something very, very interesting because remember, this person is a doctor, and his institution, it works on healthcare policy. And he said one of the things that the leadership is not doing very well is instead of getting people to trust, obey, and understand what's going on, they're inciting fear into the public. Like basically, everyone get inside, no one comes out. Like there's no need to do it. So this Dr. Atlas was saying, there's no evidence that people should be confined to their homes. There's no evidence that you should close the schools. Like young children right now are almost at 0% of catching and even getting sick or dying from it. And, basically you lock your parents in, they can't go to work, and then that causes a lot of mental illness too. And there's no evidence to lock down beaches and parks, as long as you social distance while you're there. And all the policies that are being used in America at the moment, there's no evidence for it, and all it's doing is instilling fear and panic into the people. Like he says, one sign that people are panicking is when someone is in the car by themselves wearing a mask, and he says that he's not saying that the people are dumb. He's basically saying that this is how much fear the government or the leadership is inciting in people, that people are literally wearing masks inside a car by themselves, which means why would you, there's no need to do it when you're by yourself. And this is a fear that comes in from poor leadership that doesn't actually, give you enough evidence, right? So imagine if they said, hey guys, you have super low chance of catching it if you're healthy, if you're exercising, if you have no pre-existing conditions, if you're not elderly, hey, you'll be fine. Then people won't freak out because okay, if you're wearing, who needs a mask? People who are already sick. So that's why I said that one of the things when it comes to policy, it has to be, you need to use science, which makes it, you need evidence, and you also need logic for appropriate policies, like common sense for these types of things. And he said this is kind of one of the issues that's happening, and it's not just these four interviews that I saw. It's just a lot of these videos are popping up on the internet now, and like I said, if it was regular people talking like this, we could easily say, not a big deal. Come on, is that really a big deal? And we would think that it's not if they're just regular people. But it's not regular people. Who is it? It's literally doctors, right? I didn't say, it's literally doctors, epidemiologists, and virologists. And even health policy advisors are all saying it doesn't make any sense. And this is why it's gaining a lot of credibility, right? So, this is something that, especially for us, we don't because we're not doctors and such, and we don't know what the actual issue is, but we also have to think about common sense and what is proper policy and what is what is the real evidence that we're looking at? Because, we talked a little bit about this before. We're dealing with death versus death, because for every percentage point that goes up, they say it's about 10,000 deaths in America. For every percentage point, the unemployment goes up. And we're close to, in America, it's close to 30 million people. 30 million, which is crazy. It's never been this high before. And it's jumping up 3 to 5 million per week of people who are unemployed. And, you're looking, when it was originally at 4 to 5%, it's 20, and it's higher than 20% right now. So how many percentage points is that? So people really have to look at what the real situation is. Yeah, it's pretty nuts right now. So we just got to realize that we have to look at all the information, and we can't be one thing that I saw that was very interesting from what I see on the news is, one thing people are saying is, even if you don't like Trump, but that shouldn't make you disbelieve every single thing he says. And this is coming from someone who's not on Trump's side. But, it makes sense, right? Just because you don't like someone doesn't mean they're always wrong. But it kind of feels like that in America, and people are it's no longer about what is truth and what is right and what is wrong. It's basically about I only trust who I like, which, what if the person you like is not a doctor? You're going to trust them for your breast cancer? You're going to trust them for your your aneurysm, your stroke? You're going to trust them for that? No, it's got nothing to do with it. And I really hope that all of us too, as we learn through the messages and what God tells us is, we can't only look at one side. We have to always look at 2, 3, 4 sides, and then we'll get a much, much better idea of what is going on. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed that portion of today's world news. And we're going to move into a very good section a lot of us like too. This is the praise section. I have two kind of slow songs, ballads. And it's I Believe and My Confession to the Lord. I picked these songs because it's going to the weekend. We can just relax from all the work and all the different things that we're doing, especially in Malaysia. Everyone went back to work. So now we're everyone's gone to work. They're coming back home. It's a time to relax, or you need a time to relax at work. So let's listen to these two songs, I Believe and My Confession to the Lord.
As I am walking on this road that leads to the city of gold, the Lord's sail is planted in my center, and on the Lord's wings I will rapture higher. I believe that the will has been fulfilled. I believe that my spirit rose with Him. I believe I'm living in the city of gold, and in this life I will always give thanks as I rise towards that with the condition of the Lord, God's dream finally came true. As for me, I'll walk this path unchanging. I'll do what I must, and I'll never turn back. I believe that the will has been fulfilled. I believe that my spirit rose with Him. I believe I'm living in the city of gold, and in this first met you, my Lord, how I made up my mind, how I decided I would learn from you only, focusing on this word alone. I have seen how you really live your life. I have seen for myself. Now I will not be shaken, whatever comes. I have seen you, Lord, so how could I share? I will serve you, Lord, you who are the King of 10,000 kings. And I love you, Lord, forever is my bridegroom. I love you more. You've become my everything. I've given all my life to you. Please use me according to your way. When I saw the Almighty shine through you, I got down on my knees. Surely the Trinity are working through you. I confess to you through these burning tears. I will serve you, Lord, you who are the King of 10,000 kings. And I love you, Lord, forever is my bridegroom. I love you more. You've become my everything. I've given all my life to you. Please use me according to your way. Everything, the work you've done, the word you breathe, I can testify that all these things are true. I preach with the spirit of truth. I will serve you, Lord, you who are the King of 10,000 kings. And I love you, Lord, forever is my bridegroom. I love you more. You've become my everything. I've given all my life to you. Please use me according to your way. I will serve you, Lord, you who are the King of 10,000 kings. And I love you, Lord, forever is my bridegroom. I love you more. You're the only one I love. There's no one else, there's nothing more. I love you, so please receive my love. You're the only one I love. There's no one else, there's nothing more. I love you, so please receive my love.
And that is my confession to the Lord. Very powerful and moving song. I hope that you guys enjoyed that one. And of course, the first song, another oldie but a goodie, that is I Believe. And that brings us to the word section for today. And I kind of brought it up in the very beginning about having vision and being a visionary in this history. And it's something I really wanted to kind of plant a seed in people's hearts. And the thing is, this is Friday before the weekend starts, which means that we have a lot of time to think, until we get to the next Morning Star Drive podcast. And I want to talk to you about like vision and becoming a visionary. Now, if you look at in the world itself, when you look at all the people, they say only 2.5% of the people in the world are actually visionaries. So what is a visionary? A visionary is someone who thinks about the future or advancement, right? Advancing to the future in a creative and imaginative way. It's someone who's ahead of their time, someone who has a powerful plan to change. Like, this is what a visionary is, right? That person who sees far ahead and no one else sees it but them. And they're guiding this group into this new era or this future plan. And most likely a lot of people will misunderstand. But in the end, they'll be like, oh, I'm so glad we did it like this. And for any organization or any group, the first thing that matters to any meaningful organization is vision. It's what you really want. It's a goal. It's a dream. It's something that's unattainable in the near future. But it's something that you really want, that something inspires you. It requires a lot of work to get that thing done. It requires a lot of change to make it happen, but the vision is good enough. It's something that inspires you to the point you want to do it. It's like hearing something like, whoa, yeah, I totally want that. And it'll push you to want to do it. The vision is like a concept. It's an ideal thing. It's not measurable with numbers. I'll give you an example of something that's like, say for a church that loves people as much as they love the Lord. It's not measurable, right? Because it's not like saying, oh, a church that reaches 10,000, 20,000 people. No, that's not it. Because it's possible you could reach it in a year. It's possible if something happens, right? Like, say if I have a YouTube account, I do have one right now, and if I say 1,000 is my goal, well, what if I reach it in 2 days? It's not really much of a vision. Numbers are not goal. A vision is not a number. It's a concept. It's an ideal. It's something that's like, you can see it, but it's like fog. Like, you can't really grasp it over there, right? So we have to realize that it is a concept that everyone wants, a concept that everyone is inspired by, that when they hear it, it excites them and it enables people to move and take action, right? No organization or entity that's meaningful will start without one. But you have to think about it. People need it too. People need vision. So the question is, what is your vision? Where do you want to be as an individual in this history? What do you actually want to accomplish in your life? Not numbers, but ideal. What will inspire you to live the right way? Right? The inspiring vision gives you the reason to not do bad things, to not sin, to not do the things you shouldn't do, but it also energizes you and gives you the energy to push forward, right? And do what? It propels you to do positive things, right? It's not just stopping you from doing bad things. It propels you to do positive things to get towards your vision. Without vision, you're lost. And without vision, you have no direction. You see, going for a job, like getting a good job, that's not a vision. Like getting a good job, that's something that's attainable. So getting a good job is actually one of the steps in order to get your ideal. Like, I'll give you an example, okay? Becoming a person that cares and loves for the people around them and treats them like they would treat the Lord. That is a vision. So the vision is what? Loves and cares people around them and treat them like they would treat the Lord. So that's the vision. Getting the good job is a stepping stone to help you in your vision. For instance, getting a good job makes you happy, and if you're happy, you're able to care and love for the people around you more, right? Getting a good job gives you money to support your family or buy them the things that you want to buy them, right? Which makes you someone who cares and loves for the people around you. Getting a good job gives you the pride and love internally, knowing that you're providing for your family. Do you see the difference? Getting the vision itself is caring and loving and becoming someone who can love them as you would love the Lord. It's very conceptual and it's very ideal. So I'm like, whoa, I want to reach that. I do want to love my family like that. Getting a good job is something you can get and you can lose. But it's a step towards that vision. And the reason why most people are not visionaries is because they basically have no vision. Because that's what a visionary is, a person with vision in the future. They have they see advancement. They see something well ahead of them. The reason people are not visionaries is because they have no vision. So the question you have to ask yourself, what do you see for yourself, for your church, for your nation? How far are you looking? What are the steps you're doing to get there? Where do you see yourself? Like, we're doing lecturing right now. For the next 2 months, we have to prepare ourselves for lecturing, even for like this entire year. Where do you see yourself in lecturing in the next 2 months? Like, where do you see it? Like, do you have a vision? Because once you have the vision, you will fight and you will reach for something that's so much greater than what you're used to. It's like this week's message. If you're going to be proficient, if you're going to be a decent lecturer by the end of this year, what you need to study, you got to put effort into it. Who will you learn from? How many lessons will you be able to teach? How proficient will you be in the Bible? How many Bible verses will you memorize? Like, these are all things that once you have the vision, it propels you to do those measurable things because it's reaching towards something that is not measurable. A church is like what? A church that is loved the most by the Lord. Can you imagine that? You'd be like, whoa, I want that. I want to be a church that's loved the most by the Lord more than any other church. Right? Which is almost impossible because it's Whitestone, right? But you're like, oh, and people reach for that type of goal. And like, wow, I want this. So if we want this to happen, what are some of the things that we need to do? Whether it's in evangelism, whether it's in taking care of people, whether it's in preaching, whether it's in raising lecturers, whether all these other things start to come out. You're like, oh yeah, this is what we want. This is what we want. So when you have something that is like, if you have a vision, you start to see far into the future and what we need right now. Like, if you think about this, before like Sunsteam came out, how were people preparing? But if the visionary is the one that looks far ahead, far ahead, even though, it might be not, it might be something that everyone comes against, but the visionary will be someone like, you know what? We need better cameras. We need better sound system. We need better internet. We need better this, better that. Why? Because if he's not traveling, the only way we're going to meet him is through the internet, and that's it. And the visionary will have everything set up way before everyone else. They see the issue further ahead. And that's why they'll bring that issue like, oh, no, we need this. And people will be like, we don't need it. And the answer is, you do need it. You'll see. And that's why we have to become visionaries, seeing even further than that. What is your church going to look like? What are you going to look like in the next 5 years, 7 years? Right? So I hope that all of you too will just understand how important it is to have visionaries in the church. Visionaries as for yourself, seeing yourself. Remember, what is a visionary? It is someone that thinks about the future or advancement in a creative, imaginative way. A person who is ahead of their time, who has a powerful plan for change in the future. And that's an example of a visionary. So I hope that you guys too, even for yourselves, we need to be those that have that vision in our minds and start planning ahead. If we want to get there, what do we need to start preparing for? Okay? So I hope that everyone really begins to understand this. I hope this helps you guys too in what you're doing each and every day. And that moves us into today's song of choice. And I chose another gospel song to end this week. It's from the group Forever Jones. And the song is He Wants It All. It's a great song for all of us to think about as we go into the weekend. But make sure you take this song, think of it as a song for the brides of this time.
There's a voice that cries out in the silence, searching for a heart that will love him, longing for a child that will give him their all. all. He wants it all. And there's a God that walks over the earth. He's searching for a heart that is desperate and longing for a child that will give him their all. Give it all. He wants it all. And he says, love me with your whole heart. He wants it all today. Serve me with your life now. He wants it all today. Bow down, let go of your idols. He wants it all today. He wants it all today. He wants it all today. He wants it all. There's a God that walks over the earth. He's searching for a heart that is desperate, longing for a child that will give him their all. Give it all. He wants it all. And he says, love me with your whole heart. He wants it all today. Serve me with your life now. He wants it all today. Bow down, let go of your idols. He wants it all today. He wants it all today. He wants it all today. He wants it all. So give it all. There's a voice that cries out in the silence, searching for a heart that will love him, longing for a child that will give him their all. Give it all. He wants it all.
And that is He Wants It All from Forever Jones. So I hope that you guys really enjoyed that song. It's got a really smooth beat, relaxing, and I hope that it makes you and reminds you of the Holy Trinity. So that brings us into one of our favorite portions, well, probably the favorite for a lot of people, is going to be the story of the day. And today's story is going to be mine and something that happened actually yesterday. This actually happened yesterday during our Lockdown Tuesday. Those of you who don't know, I have another YouTube channel, and that's mainly for newcomers and members and newcomers. It's just an open channel, and I do Lockdown Tuesdays. I do Bible stories, and yesterday I did a story of the Samaritan woman. So yeah, I'm going to tell you this. It's kind of a cool story, so I hope that you guys will enjoy this. So yesterday, it was Tuesday night. Every Tuesday night, 8 p.m., we have an online live lecture called Lockdown Tuesdays. And of course, Saturdays we have the Bubble Talks. But Lockdown Tuesday is interesting because we do a full out, just a Bible story every week. And we talk about how that Bible story is relevant to our lives even today. And the talk is at 8 p.m. and I always begin preparing for the talk, like actually like writing it down and like getting down to the flow of the lecture at 3 p.m. on the same day. And I just get my mind as deep as I can into it. Like, what is this story about the Samaritan woman? You know, what have we heard in messages in the past about the Samaritan woman? And it's quite interesting because the inspiration I got wasn't one of those normal inspirations. It wasn't kind of like the same flow I usually do in other lectures when I talk about like how it applies to our life. But this one seemed more, honestly, like even other people were saying, it seemed more like an intro to Bible study. And after the lecture finishes, I think everyone gets this sometimes as a lecturer. It's like, you know what? I didn't really feel it. Like, I really didn't. Like, even though I had the inspiration before, just, preparing everything, I was like, oh, this looks good, this looks good. But then when you're practicing it right before, like an hour and a half before it, I'm just gonna be honest, it wasn't like something I really felt. And I was like, oh God, is it not gonna turn out the way I thought it? Like, what's gonna happen? And I go down to the studio, 8 p.m. we begin, and we do the same session. And by the end of it, I'm sure you guys had that feeling where you're not satisfied. You're like, oh, I could have done it so much better. Oh, I could have done this lecture so much better than, oh no. And and in my mind, it was somewhat negative, like not negative like I suck, but it was more like, oh, I could have done better. Maybe I should have prepared more, or maybe, I'm not sure. So I went back upstairs, and then I went to go take a shower. And after you have a lecture that you're not really feeling, it's just in your mind the whole time, like, oh, I could have done better. Taking a shower and I'm just thinking about this in my head, and I'm like, God, man, like, was it okay? Was it that bad? Like, I really didn't feel it. And the inspiration I got at that moment I was in the shower was, it's not you. It's not you that does it. It's not your skill. It's not the way you say it. It's not how powerfully you speak, but it's me. And the feeling was almost like, you'll know it's me, because even though you didn't feel anything, let's see what happens. And finish my shower, go into my room, and just changing and everything else. And then all of a sudden these texts are coming in. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? And then the people, the internet ministry team that we're with here, they're like, man, after someone listened to it, someone from another country, from Indonesia, just straight up says, I want to do Bible study one-on-one. And today and yesterday too, we usually have over 100 people like listening to it live, but for some reason yesterday was only like 70 people. So it was the fewest amount of viewers, but the most amazing part was we had 3 people that wanted to start joining and listen to the word. And even though it was the least amount of people, we had the most amount of newcomers. And when we looked at the final numbers for the month until the first week of May, we have connected like 23 people in 1 month from these online lectures. So it's something that is really encouraging. And I was like, wow, God, you're really working, and it's just a matter of doing it the way you want. And I may not feel it, and I may not think it might not have even been my best lecture, but it's you. And these newcomers are starting to want to come. They want to listen to the words. So it was really inspiring for me, because in my mind I'm thinking it's so terrible, and I think a lot of us too go through those situations in life where you think you did bad, and you think that you weren't that good, and you think that, oh, I'm so embarrassed, or oh, I shouldn't have done it like this. But in the end, we have to realize it's God when it comes to these things. When we lecture, when we take care of people, when we go evangelize. And I hope that all of us too, just like this week's message, we learned in Matthew chapter 11, verse 25 to 29, Jesus is like, hey, all of you who are weary and burdened, come to me, for my yoke is light, right? And my burden is not heavy. And the thing that was said in the message this week was, why is it easy? It's because you learn from the head, and the head gives you the best answer. It's the best way, no matter. And what was also in the message was, even though you might look at it like, wow, that's a weird method, but it's the right one. So I hope that all of us here too can become more united with the Holy Trinity, that God will be our center, and we'll really be able to make sure that we can do it according to the way God wants. All right. So I hope you guys are going to have a wonderful weekend, because we're not gonna see you for another 2-3 days. So everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful Friday and a weekend. Come join the Bubble Talk on Saturday if you can, and also come join. And remember, there's a Sunday edition and that's at 2 p.m. on Sunday. And this week's going to be Pastor David Baker. Everyone have a good weekend.
Cause no one else will.